Amidst the growing fears and tensions revolving around the recent attacks by Daesh, I felt the need to take some time out of my afternoon to make this video. I will be referring to the terrorist group as Daesh, a name that is a direct knock at the group's legitimacy, as opposed to the name ISIS or the name ISIL. This is the first time that my connections on social media from around the world are all posting videos and articles on the same topic, and what I am seeing in many of these posts is very disheartening. First off, I would like to say to the families and friends of the victims of the Paris attacks last week, my thoughts and prayers are with you. To all affected by the Beirut bombing the day before, which somehow escaped the Western media's attention, my thoughts and prayers are with you. To all the rest of you, Syrians, Iraqis, Yemenis, Libyans, and everyone else who wakes up daily to the sounds of bombs and shootings in their home countries, or who have been forced to flee to other countries whose arms, unfortunately, are not so welcoming, my thoughts and prayers have been and continue to be with you. A week later, the Paris attacks of last week continue to dominate news headlines, understandably so. But what we are not seeing on the media is the growing hatred towards and fear of Muslims that has ensued. We are not hearing about the mosque in Canada that was deliberately set on fire last Saturday. We are not hearing about the young veiled Muslim woman who was attacked in Marseille by a man who called her a terrorist. We are not hearing about the gunshots fired at a mosque in Connecticut the same evening of the Paris attacks. We are not hearing about the kebab restaurants, halal butcher shops, and mosques in France that in the past few days have been vandalized with horrifying hate messages. We are not hearing about the bomb threat voicemail that the Florida Islamic Center of St. Petersburg received. And I quote, "We are tired of your shit, and I fucking personally have a militia that is going to come down to your Islamic Society of Pinellas County and firebomb you and shoot whoever is there in the head." Add to this an enormous amount of individual death threats to Muslims and threats to shoot up mosques reported in the US, Canada, and throughout Europe. When was the last time you heard about those on the news? Many of the posts I have read in the past few days warn about the dangers of Islam. Posts that make absolutely no distinction between the tiny minority of radical terrorizers murdering in the name of Allah and the millions and millions of peaceful practicing Muslims who are just as fearful of and at least as indignant of Daesh's atrocities. I can only suppose that the authors of these posts do not realize that they are playing right into Daesh's game. I'm sure Daesh is right now celebrating the news of the anti-Muslim threats and attacks. These radicals want to convince Muslims that the West will never accept them. Every attack of theirs has this in mind. When you group Muslims with this terrorist group, you are only reinforcing Daesh's message. Closing borders in Europe is simply another victory for the terrorists. And if I'm not mistaken, similar discussions of closing borders to Syrian refugees are being held in the United States right now. More good news for Daesh. America, what happened to give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free? I'm not saying let an unorganized mass of refugees cross your borders without documentation, but there is a big difference between welcoming and incorporating refugees in a well-structured way and simply turning them away because you do not want to deal with them. You may wonder, who is this guy? Why does he care enough to make this video? I'm a Christian, Venezuelan American university student who used to believe in many of the Western stereotypes about Muslims, but who has, throughout traveling and study abroad, been pleasantly surprised by the utter inaccuracy of those stereotypes. I have always been fascinated by other cultures. Last year, I wanted to improve my French, and I chose to do a homestay in Senegal with a local family who actually gave me this shirt and I was studying with a local tutor instead of returning to France, a culture with which I was already familiar. My tutor was Muslim, as are most Senegalese, and my French studies with him of Senegalese culture and religion were the first real exposure I had to Muslim ideals. This past spring, I watched a video in Dr. Roger Gomes's international marketing class of a conversation between an American teacher and an Iranian teacher. I watched the Iranian teacher nicely and patiently answering the prejudiced questions posed by the former regarding her customs. I then began to research Persian culture and read articles of Westerners sharing their amazing travel experiences in Iran. In spite of my dozens of fearful friends encouraging me to reconsider, I planned a 2-week couch surfing trip by myself to Iran, an Islamic country where women are required by law to wear hijab to cover their neck and hair. The hospitality and kindness of everyone I met was overwhelming, unlike anything I have ever seen before. In every city I visited, random people translating for me, giving me rides, randomly jumping in my pictures, teaching me Persian words, showing me around different sites, laughing hysterically with me, hosting me in their homes, or simply walking up on the street with a big smile to shake my hand and say, "Welcome to Iran." All this simply out of the goodness of their hearts. I spent a great weekend with a couple of awesome Omani guys that hosted me in Muscat in September. Just a few weeks ago, I was also in the beautiful country of Lebanon. I traveled from Tripoli down to Tyre, and from Beirut to Baalbek near the Syrian border. And the hospitality I received by both Christians and Muslims there was wonderful as well. Now I am pursuing a semester of studies at Paris Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, a bridge between civilizations, where French-speaking and Arabic-speaking students study together and are the best of friends. Many of my classmates are Muslims who come from literally all over the Arabic-speaking world, from Syria to Morocco to Yemen to Iraq to Comoros to Egypt, and whose friendliness and generosity are displayed to me on a daily basis. These hundreds of Muslims I have met in my travels, and the millions more that are like them, are human beings just like us. They laugh, they cry, they get stressed over college exams, they like dressing up for parties, they get butterflies in their stomach when one of their crushes walks by. They have to deal with crap in their lives just like we do. And many of them now face even more crap by Westerners associating them with an extremist radical terrorist group that unfortunately kills in the name of the God they worship. I will close with this. Guys, breaking news like the Paris shootings will naturally stir up all kinds of emotions. But I ask of you, I beg of you, for the good of humanity, do not let your mixed emotions lead to misdirected anger and hostilities. Antoine Léris, who lost his wife in the Paris attacks, penned a tribute to her that I encourage all of you to read. It begins as follows. Friday night, you took away the life of an exceptional human being, the love of my life, the mother of my son, but you will not have my hatred. He continues on. You want me to be frightened, that I should look into the eyes of my fellow citizens with distrust, that I sacrifice my freedom for security. You lost. End quote. On that note, I propose to you, to everyone who sees this video, let us work together with our Muslim brothers and sisters, that we may all together stand up to Daesh and similar terrorist groups. And one more thing, as a side note, chances are, if you're watching this, that you live in a country where the freedoms and security you have are taken for granted. The education many of us are fortunate enough to receive is something that goes unappreciated. We grow bored in our free time and kill so many hours of precious time in front of TV and computer screens. what people wouldn't give in some of these war-torn countries to have the freedoms you are enjoying now. Take advantage of these blessings, guys. Make the most of them, and then do something with them, in whatever capacity you can, for the people that are stuck in these danger zones, or for the refugees who had to leave everything behind in the unpromising search for a better life. Wouldn't your life be worth a whole lot more? Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you guys.